September sunset into keyless sunrise layers. Autumn light smudged by the chill breath of night. A skein of geese in clumsy chorus announcing arrival on the homeward flight. Memories of the garden year swell like ripening fruit. Where does the cycle end? Where begin? The seeds of next year's promise already grow within. Being the custodian of a garden is a privilege, and watching butterflies forage on the flowers feels particularly precious this week as the charity Butterfly Conservation has declared a UK butterfly emergency, with numbers this summer dropping to the lowest count recorded. Butterflies are flagship species, a biodiversity barometer of the overall health of our environment, so this news makes for serious reflection. It made me wonder, are we doing enough here in our own garden, located in Kent, southeast England, to support and sustain moths and butterflies? One thing we can change is to allow leaves to accumulate in corners and under shrubs rather than tidying and raking them up, so that insects have sheltered places to hibernate and rest. Some caterpillar species lie dormant in winter, buried amongst leaf litter. Those dead, lifeless leaves of today are tomorrow's butterfly nursery. Another important element is to grow nectar-rich flowers from March to November. And here's one plant that is definitely offering the good stuff to foraging insects this autumn. We've grown annual Cosmos Double Click Cranberries for the first time this year, and of all our Cosmos cultivars, it seems to be the butterfly's #1 choice for nectar. This is a tall, branching Cosmos with a froth of feathery, ferny leaves and burgundy pink petals. In the low golden rays of autumn light, the flower heads glow with stained glass intensity in a heart-fluttering as well as a wing-fluttering way. Ours are grown in containers in peat-free compost, positioned in full sun. If you prefer a more elegant look, a cane or support would be the best option because our unsupported top-heavy stems tend to veer off in a slightly diagonal direction, but I cram other plants around them in the display, which creates an upright illusion. Plant size depends on container size. Even in a 3.5 litre container, like this pot, you can still grow a generously flower-covered plant. But in choosing a container shape, depth is more important than width. The bigger the container, the bigger the plant. In the ground or a large container, these will grow up to 90 centimetres or 36 inches. These are thirsty in pots and need regular watering in dry spells. Keep a dish under the pot during rain-free weeks so that every drop of watering is used to hydrate them. Ours began flowering late, not until August, and will hopefully keep blooming into October. Double Click Cranberries make the most fantastic cut flowers. They've been harmonising rather beautifully with the Ethiopian peacock orchid, which bears its last few claret feathered flowers now. Their ruffled petals, mostly double, occasionally single, add interest grouped with an array of pale pink and deep rose petal cosmos, and the charming lavender blue stars of late season Aster monk. Our poor pot-bound plant still needs dividing. I meant to do that job in the spring. All these later season flowers are important for hibernating butterflies, boosting energy reserves for the winter months, as well as helping to sustain other pollinators. Gatekeepers thrive where there are areas of long grass and in coppiced woodland. Coppiced woods support more species of butterfly than any other habitat in the UK. The garden has taken an incredible battering in heavy rains recently, but these plants seem resilient and unbowed. Salvias are another late-season nectar-rich food source and a favourite of hummingbird hawk-moths, which are such dear little creatures and always a complete joy to have visiting the autumn garden. Also incorporated into this grouping of containers is the majestic leafage of Cotinus royal purple for added depth of glorious plummy colour. There is the dreamy brushstroke texture of Scots pine chantry blue. A gorgeous red and orange mosaicked moth called Pine Beauty, whose caterpillars feed on needles, has been doing well in the UK in recent decades due to pine plantations and increasing popularity of ornamental conifers in gardens. Salvia black and blue for a sumptuous shot of cerulean, as blue as a clear autumn sky. Along with soft mounds of pale and pretty pink Hydrangea magical revolution. Hydrangeas, especially mophead hydrangeas, are often criticised by wildlife conservationists for their poor nectar and pollen supply, as they are largely sterile. But in their defence, densely packed long-season flower heads such as these provide excellent insect shelter and protection over winter. And although the food supply may be limited in quantity, they still offer sustenance in quality, because moths, butterflies and especially hoverflies are often seen feeding from them. I would never rely on hydrangeas as the sole butterfly food source, but their benefits do seem rather overlooked, and they support a whole ecosystem from dashing tiny red spider mites, patrolling ants, web and pouncing spiders, and insect-eating birds. So it's important not to take a one-dimensional perspective on the wildlife value of the less championed plants in our gardens. What's more satisfying than coming home to find the packages you ordered waiting on the doorstep? Finding flowers on your doorstep. What's lovelier than finding flowers on your doorstep? Coming home to a frog. As I have lamented many times, the roots of our red Windsor apple trees were adversely affected by poor drainage in the exceptionally heavy rainfall earlier this year, and sadly they bear no fruit this autumn. So we headed off to harvest some apples at the charming Castle Farm in Kent's Darent Valley, where the chalky soils on scarp slopes are ideal for the farm's 130 acres of lavender fields, as well as the orchard. This is the only remaining commercial collection of Royal Norfolk dessert apple trees. As the name hints, these Norfolk Royals were once widely grown in East Anglia from the 1930s. The bright red fairy tale fruit has sweet, juicy flesh and a subtle melon flavour. It is an absolute favourite of one of us.
C'est délicieux.
Norfolk Royal trees are self-sterile, So to ensure successful pollination, they are grown with my all-time top apple for taste, the incredibly layered, intensely flavoured Cox's Orange Pippin. In May, apple tree blossom provides a banquet of nectar and pollen, perfect for butterflies and other insects. A variety of caterpillars eat the leaves. Butterflies will feed on bruised windfall fruit too, as will mammals like hedgehogs, badgers and voles. The spring blossom buds are packed with nutrients, bringing blue tits and finches to feed. Planted in the garden, apple trees offer fabulous wildlife benefits. We have a pair of the Verbena bonariensis cultivar Lollipop, a herbaceous short-lived perennial, perched in pots either side of the raised bed. These are not as statuesque as the classic and hugely popular species type, more on that leggy beauty shortly, but they share the same charming, floaty lilac purple heads that are formed from nectar-rich, densely packed individual tubular flowers, similar in form to those found on the panicles of buddleja. Ours seem very attractive to hoverflies, but are largely passed over by larger pollinators in favour of the Hylotelephium, formerly known as sedum, growing next to them, which is another bountiful late-season provider of pollen and nectar. So why aren't the bees and butterflies interested in our Verbena Lollipop? Some container-grown plants, with their restricted root systems, though by no means all, seem to have a more meagre or less appealing nectar supply than their ground-planted counterparts with unrestricted roots, and this can be especially true in dry spells. So this is something worth considering if I want to make our garden more butterfly-friendly. On our recent visit to the gardens at RHS Wisley, the sight of painted ladies and bees feasting on Verbena bonariensis was a complete delight. Planted in an airborne drift of purple nectar islands along the front of the cafe terrace for visitors' ringside seats to the elegant butterfly theatre, this has made me long to grow the full-size species in the ground next year in our own garden. These plants have been long valued for their airy habit, allowing use at back, middle or front of border without hindering the pleasure of the view beyond, and their effortless blending into wild and free-feeling grass landscapes, tropical jungle-themed planting and more traditional ornamental borders demonstrates their magnificent floral versatility. Autumn brings the dampish, composty, almost melancholic scent of plant life returning to the earth. But the air is also buzzing with energy, not the electricity of spring, when the whole landscape is alive with the drive of the sap and the bud, and not summer's glow and show and exuberant exhibitionist bounty, but still a strongly tangible pulse of life, of autumn's enchantment and colour incantations. crickets are busy mating, bringing new life and a new generation of percussionists to their leafy world. Late-season salvias are teasing, withholding their opening invitation to the flower unveiling until the last moment, building maximum anticipation. Leaving us to imagine for now October's strings of lilac-tinged pearly petals clasped in chalky purple calyces. Bumblebees raise their joyful chorus in the Japanese anemones from dawn till dusk. Their sounds vibrate warmly deep in the heart. And from the heart, a thank you for joining us here at Applebee Fern Sea, and to all our garden friends who subscribe, support and engage with us. It is wonderful to have your company and to share with you the unfolding seasonal stories of the garden. We hope you will join us again later in the year, and until next time, we wish you all flowerful times and nature-soothed minds.